Welcome back to the 10X is Easier Than 2X YouTube series. I'm Dr. Benjamin Hardy, author of this book with Dan Sullivan, as well as the other two books we did, Who, Not How, and The Gap and the Gain. And in this video, I'm going to talk to you about a really powerful concept. And this is something that if you pull out your journal and really do, you're gonna learn a lot about yourself. And so this is about reviewing your previous 10X cycles or your previous 10X jumps, whatever those look like for you. And by the way, you get to define what your previous 10Xs were. It doesn't always have to be that you made 10 times more money, boom, boom, boom. I look at 10X more of a level of life. So for example, going from crawling to walking is a 10X. I'm gonna show the core model. I think this would be the easiest way for you to start looking at this. And if you go through this process and maybe look at your past, maybe 2, 3, or up to 5 last 10X processes, you'll see all the ways that you've done this a lot of times before in your life, no matter who you are. And so this is the core model of the book. If you've watched these videos, you'll kind of already get it. But to go 10X, you've got to go all in on the 20% that's most relevant and go really deep and develop higher levels of skill set, mastery, confidence. And you got to let go of a certain form of 80% that's going to hold you back from that 10X, that just is your past self and it doesn't meet the standard. But this could be your security blanket. It could be your story, your narrative, your standards, the friends. So what you want to do, if you would pull out your journal, is think about the big jumps that you've made in your life. Like one could be honestly just like getting into college or completing college. One thing that's helpful is to think about where you were and where you started and what the next level was that you went through. And then using this model, what was the 20% that you ultimately committed to and went all in on? And what was the 80% you had to let go of? So I'm just going to share with you a few of mine just to give an example. And we share them in this book. It's chapter 4 of this book, which helps you to reframe your past and see that 10X has been a normal part of your past so that it can equally be a normal part of your future. This is something you've done many times. One of the big 10X jumps I made was getting onto a church mission. Just getting onto that mission, 2-year mission for me, was a 10X jump. And it took a lot of commitment. It took a lot of weeding out all sorts of 80%. So obviously my call to adventure, using that idea of call to a future self and then letting the future dictate who you are and what you do in the present. And that bigger goal is that 10X future weeds out 80% of your life that's going to hold you back. With the 80% of your life, by the way, is your past self and your current self, but it doesn't fit your future self. Your 10X future self only allows you to keep the best 20%. And that's where you really go deep. I had a pretty traumatic youth. When I was 11 years old, my parents got divorced. I'm the oldest of 3 boys. My father ended up going through some deep cycles of addiction. And there was just a lot of instability and chaos in my life and in my family. And it ended up like creating all sorts of chaos. And so I ended up barely graduating high school. But when I was about 18 or 19 years old, I was really wanting to get out of the cycle. I'd barely graduated high school, had a lot of just trauma from my life, felt like I wanted to go on this church mission. I felt like that would be a really good opportunity for me to reset and to transform my life. And so I started going back to church, and it took about 1.5 years, 2 years to get myself ready. And so if I was just to look at this model, and I'm just going to give it to you briefly and vaguely, but like the 20% of getting onto that mission was in large part like really developing my faith in God, beginning to make my own decisions about life, beginning to reconnect with my family. So I would say that there was a big 80% that I had to start stripping away to get onto that mission. Getting onto that mission was a high filter for me. A lot of my 80% was no longer hanging out with various high school friends that were going down different paths, whether that's drugs, etc. I had to let go of a lot of my trauma, a lot of my resentments. I had a lot of resentment towards my parents. And so that was part of my 80%, was letting that go, forgiving them, developing those bonds again. I played video games. I played World of Warcraft for 15 hours a week. So like that became part of my 80%, was stripping that away. So I stripped away a lot of things: anger, resentment, video games, bad habits, etc. And my 20% was really about increasing my faith in God, learning various skills, building confidence, making my own decisions. That was part of the 80%. And I ended up getting onto that. And it was a 10X jump just to get onto that. But then that whole experience changed my life. And then I would say, just as an example, the next 10X jump that I could describe would be when I came back. The next 10X jump would be to go from like starting college and getting into a PhD program and also getting married. So like I look at the 10Xs as holistic. I look at my future self as holistic. And so my next jump would be getting into graduate school, but also I wanted to get married. And that was like a multi-year process, basically from 2010 to 2014. That was my 20%, was basically becoming the type of person who could attract my wife, getting an amazing psychology and philosophy education, and also really learning how to research and write at a PhD level. And that was my 20%. My 80% was a lot of different things during that phase. Coming home from that mission, there was a lot of pull back to old habits, old cycles, old friends that I had to let go of. I also had to let go of good things too. Like I got a really great job after that mission working for two financial advisors, and they were really wanting to like groom me up to be their advisor. And that was something I had to let go of. I had to let go of even accepting mediocre situations. So like I had a lot of mentors, but they did not get me to where I needed to go. And so I had to find mentors that could get me to really where I needed to go. So I mean, there was a lot of things I had to let go of on that cycle. A lot of the 80% I had to strip away, and a 20% that I had to really develop. And I did over, from 2010 to 2014. I really got way better at psychology knowledge, writing, researching knowledge, and I did get married. And obviously there's a huge growth curve there. I would say from there, the next 10x jump, and I've described it in this, is basically being a PhD student and going from PhD student to professional author. And also my wife and I wanted to start our family, which we ended up doing. We ended up getting foster kids, having 3 kids. My 10x future self was a professional author, getting a 6-figure book deal with one of the major publishers. And that ultimately led me to the 20% of viral blogging and building a huge email list. And so I'm only just sharing these with you to show that every time I did this call to a new adventure, it invited me into a new 20%, but it also required me to let go of an 80% that got me there. In the case of that one, I had to let go of my university position. I was the only PhD student in my program that was paying for tuition because I let go of the university position and invested all that time into building my writing career. I share myself as an example, but I really invite you to pull out your journal and just look at the various chapters and phases of your life and look at the 20% that you went all in on to achieve that commitment and the 80% you had to let go of to get to that level. I love the concept that lessons are repeated until learned, and that every next level of your life is going to require a different you. And getting to that different you is really about making the decision of what you're going to commit to, going deep into the 20% that matters and getting 10 times better at it, more masterful, more skilled. That involves building relationships, experiences, and letting go of the 80% that no longer fits. And then you just go through this process again and again. And so I invite you to go through that process, to review all of your own 10x jumps and phases so that you can see that you've done this before. But also by looking at this, you will see that you have stripped away the 80% before, and you can do it again and again, and you can peel away more and more of those layers. You can get more and more to the core of who you are, more honest with yourself. And every time you do this, it'll be simpler and easier to let go of that 80%, which is your past self, and to fully commit and go deep into the 20%. Take the time to do this. Really beautiful to review your previous 10x jumps. And it actually provides enormous clarity as you review those and see the 20% that stacks onto the 20% that stacks onto the 20% to see how you got here. And it also can illuminate your next 10x adventure, as well as the 20%, the next 20% that you want to develop extreme mastery in. So hope you enjoyed this. Please take the time to journal on this and enjoy it. And I'll see you in the next episode.